Number one is that faith in God is something reasonable. What do I mean by this? Is that God appeals to your intelligence. An animal cannot have faith, because faith is for someone that has a brain, that can think, that can reason. If God is a person and He loves us, He would dignify us. He won't treat us as an animal, but He would speak also to our intelligence. I remember the first time I attended to a course like this. I don't know if it happened to you, you're okay, because it also happened to me. But I had this prejudice, that I would arrive there and suddenly they would say, okay, Teo, I see your name. Would you leave your brain here? We'll keep it for you during the course, do a good brainwashing, and give you back when you're done. I thought that they were inviting me to a course of faith that I didn't have to think that much. Maybe you arrive like that. But on the other way around, the proof that faith is something reasonable is that actually faith never contradicts reason. And you know why? Because God created faith and reason. He's the creator of both. He created the faith and He created the reason, and He can never contradict Himself. And that's why probably it might happen that you think, okay, faith, if I keep on studying science, at one point I will have conflict with my faith. I remember the first time that I studied Darwin's theory of evolution. I don't know if it happened to you, but I was so disappointed. I said I need to go back to my elementary school and say to my catechist, my religious teacher, you are lying, because you taught me the book of Genesis that God had created the world, but look what Darwin said. And afterwards, of course, I realized that there was no contradiction at all. I had not understood what each of the theory implies, but it might happen. Look I like what St. Thomas Aquinas said, one of the most brilliant minds. He said, I wouldn't believe if I did not realize that it's reasonable to believe. I'm talking about one of the most brilliant theologians in the Middle Ages. He said, I wouldn't believe if I did not realize that it's reasonable to believe. And the second aspect I want to share about that faith that appeals to our intelligence is that it produces something tremendous. It gives us an expansion of mind. When you start having faith, it produces like an enlargement of mind. You start seeing more. In some way, remember Matrix, when Neo starts seeing the Matrix, you start seeing the core of reality. There is one thing that your biological eyes can see. You see things moving, you see things, people moving and going from one place to another. But I want to suggest tonight that when you start having faith, you start seeing the core of reality. You start seeing with another eyes. And that's why, look what Ludwig Wittgenstein said. To believe in God means to realize that the facts of the world are not the whole story. To realize that in life there are not just single facts, that there's something else. There's not the whole story. I read that for Hinduism there's not just two eyes, but at one point when you are very spiritual, you in some way receive a third eye. That is the spiritual eye. It's the eye that in some way gives you the chance to perceive beyond ordinary sight. Let me share a powerful experience for me about this reality, about how faith gives you new eyes. I want to tell you the story of Adrian. He was 19 years old when I met him. For 2 years in my life, I missioned in the slums. And this guy, Adrian, by the time I met him, he had already a 3-year-old son. He was very involved in drugs and alcohol. He had suffered a lot during his childhood. And every time I would go to visit him, he would run away. I don't know if he had a radar or a GPS, but every time I was close to his house, he would run away. But once I heard from his friends that he had been having a lot of troubles with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was tired of him being close to drugs. He was very violent also. So one day, I remember we were in our house and we received a phone call. It was from the hospital. This is what happened. One evening, Adrian came back very drunk, and he saw that his girlfriend had left the house. And she had left him a note. Adrian, I'm gone. You will never see your son again. I'm tired of you. This man, Adrian, took a gun. He tried to commit suicide. But you know what happened? The bullet didn't kill him, it just crossed from one side to the other, and he lost his sight. So when I heard this, I went running to the hospital. I went to look for him. But surprisingly, I knocked at his door. He said, "No, I don't want to listen to you. Get out." Well, okay. I came back next week. The third week, he received us. And he said, "Okay, maybe I have been avoiding God all my life. Maybe now it's time to listen to Him." Well, I won't share his whole story, but he had a strong conversion. He started listening to the Bible. He asked a friend of him, "Can you read me the Bible? I want to know more." He started making steps in his faith. He surrendered to Christ at one point. We invited him to a retreat, to like a weekend away, and he invited 10 of his friends that were big in drugs. And you know what was his testimony? He said, I wrote it down here, he said, "For 19 years I had sight, but I couldn't see real life. Now I am blind, but I can see. I can see the truth of Jesus, the truth about Him, about myself, about others. The true blindness is to live without Him." Adrian had an awareness of what I'm talking about, that faith gives you a new vision. You start seeing reality in a deeper way. The second attitude, the second characteristic that really helped me, I want to share with you, is that faith also applies or implies our will. It's a decision. Think about this. If God created you as with free will, He also mysteriously, He bound Himself, He tied to your free yes. He wants to reach your life, but think about God this. God is super powerful, depends on your yes. Depends that you say, "Okay, I will give you a chance. I will give you an opportunity in my life. Maybe I cannot give you a chance till now, but I want to listen to you." He needs our yes. That's amazing. For me, that's amazing. Look what Revelation says. Jesus, in the last book of the Bible, says, "Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with them and they with me." Jesus compares Himself as someone knocking at the door of our life. He uses this image. And there was a famous painter called Holman Hunt that in the 19th century he wanted to paint the scene of the gospel, of the Bible. And I don't know if you can see it there, but it's a really precise image. And you know how this works. When a painter has prepared some paintings, they call like a presentation, and there's always some critics. And those guys are always trying to see the small mistake you got there. And the story tells that after the whole presentation, after he got like many awards, one of these painting critics came to him and said, "Holman, I need to speak to you. You know, I've been looking to your painting, it looks very nice, I can see the details, look at that door, it looks very old. Probably you want to suggest that maybe Jesus is knocking at someone's life that for a long time has been away from Him, that has never opened the door. That's very nice. But you know what, Holman, this critic said, you missed something. Every door has a handle. You missed the handle, and it's right. If you look to that picture, you don't see a handle." And Holman's hand said, No, it was not a mistake. I did it on purpose. Because the inner handle is the human heart. God is always knocking. He wants to enter, but He's polite. He won't enter with a force. He's not the SWAT team. He's knocking, but He's waiting for your reply. He's waiting for your free yes. That is how God works. Holman Hunt had this intuition that faith also involves our freedom. But let's go a step further. Faith, if it's a decision, it is because it implies our freedom, but also, I want to suggest that it's not a blind decision, just moved by a feeling, but it's a decision based on confidence. And here, I would like to connect the first characteristic that I said, faith is reasonable, with faith as a decision. At one point in your life, you in some way realize that if God is God, He demands to be trusted. And that's why it's not a blind decision. You in some way say, okay, maybe I cannot trust fully another person because He's made as myself, He has limits. But if God is God, I can trust in Him. He deserves trust. And let me share with you another quote that I like from Joseph Ratzinger. He says, what we believe is important, but even more important is the one in whom we believe. is He's saying, okay, this is what you believe, that's important, but even more is the one that guarantees you that that is right. The one that guarantees you that saying this is truth. And let me show you a little video where it shows what happens or how it changes when you know who is calling you to trust in Him.
Jean-Francois Gravolet, better known as Blondin, was a famous tightrope walker and acrobat. He's perhaps best known for his many crossings of the tightrope, 1,100 feet in length, suspended 160 feet above Niagara Falls in the USA. His act will be watched by large crowds who begin with a relatively simple crossing using a balancing pole. Then he will throw away the pole and amaze the audience. On one occasion he crossed the tide on stilts. On another occasion, blindfolded. Another time he stopped halfway to curry on it. In 1860, the royal party from England came to watch Blondin perform. After his normal spectacular crossings, he then wheeled a wheelbarrow from one side to the other as the crowd cheered. Next, he put a sack of potatoes into the wheelbarrow and wheeled that across. The crowd cheered louder. Then he approached the royal party and asked the Duke of Newcastle, "Do you believe that I could take a man across the tightrope in this wheelbarrow?" "Yes, I do," said the Duke. "Ah, hop in," replied Blondin. The crowd fell silent, but the Duke of Newcastle would not accept Blondin's challenge. "Is there anyone else here who believes I could do it?" asked Blondin. No one was willing to volunteer. Eventually, an old woman stepped out of the crowd and climbed into the wheelbarrow. Blondin wheeled her all the way across and all the way back. The old woman was Blondin's mother, the only person willing to put her life in his hands.
I think this story really pictures what I've been trying to say, that even though for all the crowd that was a crazy move, not for her, because she knew who was that man that was asking her confidence, her trust. She knew the skill of his son. She knew that he could do it. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that faith is not a blind decision. It's not only a decision, but it's also a decision full of light. Even though we might not understand everything, it's a decision based in the one we trust. And finally, the faith is also a real relationship. It's not only an act of intelligence, not only also involves our will, but it takes us to a deeper relationship. It embraces our whole being. I was thinking these days, and as I knew that this day was coming closer, how important are relationships in our life. I think that we all would agree that our deepest joys and also our deepest sufferings come from relationships. We can suffer, yes, from weather, from different things, from grades, but the most relevant thing in our lives are relationships. And tonight I want to say this, that faith is a real relationship with someone that is alive. Let me point this out. To be a Christian, already the name includes this aspect that I'm suggesting. A Christian means a Christ-ian. Ian means follower of. Christian is the one who follows Christ, who has a relationship with Him.